My life changed for the worse when I walked down that hall, knowing I felt naked, knowing I had rejected God. My life changed. One of the ways it changed, I believe, looking back on it, is that I haven't put it in these terms before, but I became cursed. That's one good way to describe it, because almost immediately after that, I rejected God at age 11. At age 12, my family and I were down in Florida on vacation, and I broke my back. Ruptured a disc in my back, L4, L5, lumbar, by jumping up as high as I could to get a lot of spring on a what do you call it? A springboard into a pool of water. We were swimming, a diving board. Because I was used to diving off of a board, or off of two boards, low and high board, at the pool we used to use for day camp, YMCA day camp. We used to swim a lot, regularly, going to day camp, and both of those boards had a lot of spring. So I was down in Florida at a strange pool and a strange spring diving board, and without even thinking, I jumped up as high as I could. I remember thinking I'm going to get as much spring as I could, and coming down on that diving board very hard, and realizing at that moment that that board had no spring at all. It was one of those just boards that was out there, but it wasn't for springing. You know, you could dive off the board, but there was no spring to the board at all. It was just fixed. And so, like jumping up and down, it was like jumping up and down onto a concrete sidewalk. And I felt it immediately, immediate pain, and with bent knees, I fell into the pool and was able to swim over to the side of the pool and pull myself out. I spent about 3 days on my back, on the couch, in the motel room, on vacation in Florida. And then after about 3 days, I got up, I was able to move, and didn't think much more about it, except that I had ruptured the disc in my back, broke my back. And the result of that, over the next, until 1988, when I actually had surgery to remove the ruptured disc from 1962 to 1988, 72, 82, 26 years. I lived through life with a broken back and a lot of pain during those years, and sometimes worse than others, even to the point like in 1976, 74, 76, somewhere in there, Jimmy Carter was being elected president. It got to the point to where it was so bad, my back, and the pain, and not being able to walk, and the sciatica. If you ever had a broken back, or if you know someone who has a broken back, had a broken back, you know what I went through. Went to Walter Reed. The Army sent me to Walter Reed. I was in the Army at that time. Sent me to Walter Reed, and I stayed up there for 6 months, maybe, something like that. And they never did operate on me. They asked me if I wanted to take part in an experimental program wherein they injected an enzyme into the disc, or the area around the disc, which was supposed to dissolve the defect. But they had a control group, and they had the actual group that received the enzyme. I turned out to be, and nobody knew it at the time. It was a blind study. And a year later, they released the results, and it turns out I received the placebo. So they gave me a choice at the time. Do you want surgery, or do you want to enroll in this experimental program to where we inject with a needle into your back? And I thought to myself, well, if I can get out of surgery, yeah, just inject the needle. All right, but so I continued through life with a ruptured disc. And there were other significant effects from early childhood at about age 11. I didn't find this out till much later on, but I was diagnosed with dysthymia, which is a long-term low-grade depression. And I wasn't diagnosed with that until I'm 60 now. Had to be age 50 maybe, something like that. But I had it since childhood. I can remember praying. You remember when you'd pray, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I used to reverse that and say, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I wanted out. And even to some extent today, I want out. I'm ready to go. Been ready to go since I was a kid. But the good Lord has seen fit to leave me here, and so, having become a Christian, the good Lord saving me in 1993, I know that I'm here for a purpose, which is to spread the gospel and to glorify God, and to progress in my sanctification, or to progress in God's sanctification of me, growing ever and ever more toward the likeness of Christ, my Savior. All right, so I was married in 1974, and this curse continuing. I married a woman who was, she and I were not compatible. Let's say it that way. I loved her and she loved me, and we had a nice, beautiful military wedding. And I dressed in my dress blues, and she was beautiful. She was a beautiful woman. She is a beautiful woman. But that marriage, but a month after we were married, was the first time that she physically struck me. She hit me right there in the diaphragm with her fist, hard, and I doubled over. And as I doubled over, and as the breath was coming out of me, I said, I want a divorce. And we patched things up later that evening and went on. But her physical abuse never stopped. Never stopped. And I lived with it. You know, it was just a part of... we were hit a lot when we were growing up. Called names, hit a lot, and spanked a lot. And have you ever heard to where, you know, it's like, well, if that's the way you grow up, then that's the person you marry? I think that's what happened to me. And I put it, she really didn't hurt me, but, you know, then again, she's hitting me. Now, my mother, when I was growing up, it was me, my brother, and my sister. My mother always emphasized and taught us well that you never hit a woman. So I never hit her back, but I didn't know how to cope with her physical abuse. I'm sure I didn't handle it right. And to this day, I'm kind of at a loss as to what would have been effective to stop her practice of hitting me, which occurred regularly enough, 2, 3, 4 times a week, maybe. I'd say something, a lot of times trying to make a joke. She would take it as a criticism against her person and hit me for it. So I was misunderstood. And we couldn't communicate. We went to counselors. We knew we had problems. And when we were in Germany, we went to a counselor for marriage counseling. He was the minister over there, the chaplain. And he listened to us for a while. And he says, here's your communication. You're not getting through. And so life went on that way. I was depressed. Now there's one other parallel thing going on at this time, and that is that in my late teens, early 20s, knowing I didn't believe in God, it was the start of a spiritual search, I'm going to call it, a quest to find the truth in life or of life. Okay, there is no God, no Christian God, not the God that my church, that my religion had taught me about. But what is there? Is there a God? Is there a God that's different than what religion taught, what my religion taught? Or, like, what's the purpose of life? Is there a purpose to life? And that set up a search. And I went through a bunch of philosophies, schools of thought, religions, Eastern philosophy, New Age, the occult. I'm talking about astrology, numerology, the tarot, psychic phenomenon, Eastern religion kind of caught on with me a little bit. Reincarnation, becoming one with the universe. Also, local schools of thought. I attended a week-long sensitivity training down in St. Mary, Kentucky. I introduced myself to that school of thought in the latter years of being in Germany, the last year, let's say, when I saw a book on the bookshelf in a bookstore that said, why am I not happy? And boy, I picked that up right away because I knew I wasn't happy. And it was a combination of this depression, and this depression just might have been brought on by the significant change that I talked about. When I walked down the hall, I became different. I don't know. In any event, all this stuff was occurring.